Assalamualaikum everyone. Hi and welcome to chapter 5. This chapter is about logical functions and selection structures. In this chapter, we will learn how and we will learn to understand how MATLAB interprets relational and logical operators, use define command, understand the appropriate uses of the if and else family of commands, and finally understand the switch and case and the menu structure. So in previous chapters, we have developed several completed working MATLAB programs. However, all of the programs were very simple, consisting of a series of MATLAB statements that were executed one after another in a fixed order. These programs are called sequential programs. So sequential is the primary example of a control construct. A control construct is just a method by which MATLAB selects the next command to execute after it's done with the current one. So basically, they just read the input data, process it to produce a desired answer, print out the answer, and quit the program. However, there is no way to repeat sections of the program more than once, and there is also no way to selectively execute only a certain portions of the program depending on the values of the input data. So in this chapter, we'll introduce some constructs that tell MATLAB to select its next statement based on some condition. The construct that does this is called selection, or some people call it branching. Usually, the sections of computer code can be categorized as sequence, selection, and repetition, or we also call loop. A sequence is a list of commands that are executed one after another. A selection structure allows the programmer to execute one command or a set of commands if some criteria is true, and a second command or a set of commands if the criteria is false. Okay, so if it is true, it will execute the first set of commands here, but if the criteria is false, it will execute the second set of commands here. A selection statement provides the means of choosing between these parts based on the logical conditions. So how that MATLAB choose whether to execute the first set of statements or second set of statements is basically based on the logical conditions. These conditions are evaluated using both relational and logical operators of functions. Let's look at the third structures of computer codes in MATLAB. The repetition structure cause a group of statements to be executed multiple times. So that's why you can see this arrow moving inside this loop here. The number of times a loop is executed is actually depends on either a counter or the evaluation of a logical conditions. We will cover the repetition structure in chapter 6 in this chapter, we will focus on the selection structures only. As I said before, the selection and repetition structures require comparisons to work. So, this is the relational operators. In MATLAB, we have 6 different operators that we can use to make those comparisons. And we have these 3 logical operators that will allow us to combine the relational operators in order for us to make the comparisons. The relational operator here have 6 different types. Okay, this is the symbol for less than, greater than. If you combine the less than symbol with the equal sign, it means that it is less than or equal to. If you combine the greater than with the equal sign, it means that it is greater than or equal to. If you mean to do comparison that is equal to, you have to type the equal sign twice. If you want to make a comparison that is mean not equal to, you have to use this tilde sign, which is referring to the not here. For the logical operators, there is an and symbol, or, and also not, represented by the tilde symbol here. So the description for and, for example, it will operate on 2 operands A and B. So for and, if both are true, the result is true. And if either one or both are true, the result is true. Otherwise, both are false. This is how MATLAB use the relational and logical operators to obtain the logical results. And with not logical operator, it gives the opposite of the operand. So the results will be true if the operand is false, and false if the operand is true. Okay, you have to remember that when you are going to use these 2 characters for the relational operators, do not put space in between the operators. And make sure to use twice or 2 equal signs with no space between them if you want to use the equal to meaning, because the single equal sign simply means that you assign a variable to maybe a value, or equal sign here means that you assign something to a something. Normally, the relational operators are used as arithmetic operators within a mathematical expressions. The results can be used in other mathematical operations, in addressing array, and together with other MATLAB commands, in this case the if statements, to control the flow of a program. So when you are using relational and logical operators, so normally with relational operators, we compare 2 numbers. So the results is logical true 1 if the comparison is true, and 0 logical false if the comparison is false. So when you are doing comparison using relational and logical operators, you will get the results as 1 and 0 only. So 1 means that the comparison is true, while 0 means that the comparison that you are doing is false. Let's open our MATLAB and did some examples here. So first, let's try to compare between 2 scalars. Okay, first I will define variable x as 5 and then y as 1, and then I will use the less than relational operator symbol to compare is x is less than y. So basically, I want to compare is 5 is less than is 5 is less than 1. So MATLAB will give you the answer as 0. So 0 means that 5 is not less than 1. So it means that the comparison here is false, right? So let's try another one. Let's try to compare whether x is greater than y. Okay, make sure you do not put space in between the operators. And hit enter. MATLAB will give you the answer as 1. So it means that yes, x is greater than y because 5 is greater than 1, right? The results of comparisons that we obtain here, either it is 0 or 1, will be used inside the selection structure. So of course, variables in MATLAB usually represent the entire matrices. So if we redefine x and y, and y as x minus 4, and I try to do the same comparison as before, we can see that the comparison is done element by element. So the result is a logical array of the same size with either zeros or ones according to the outcome of the comparison. So MATLAB handles comparison between matrices element by element. So it will compare the corresponding elements and determines if the result is true or false for each element member. Okay, so here we can see that all the comparison is false for each element. Let's try to one thing to remember, if you are comparing between arrays, make sure that the arrays are of the same size. Only arrays of the same size can be compared. Let's try another one. Let's redefine variable y. 1, 5, 3, 2, and 10. And then let's do comparison. Is x is greater than y. So we can see here only the fourth elements reveal the results comparison as true. Okay, but how do MATLAB evaluate the results of comparison for matrices? In order for MATLAB to decide a comparison is true for an entire matrix, it must be true for every element in the matrix. So in this example here, where there is only one true results of comparison for the fourth elements, MATLAB will evaluate the whole comparison as false. Okay, and here, since all the results comparison for each elements are false, MATLAB will evaluate it as false. So MATLAB only consider a comparison is true for an entire matrix if every element also had a true comparison inside the matrix. Okay, like this one. Let's try another example where we combine comparisons with the logical operators. Okay, so we define a variable z. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So So I'm using the same variable x, y. No, I want to change the variable y as -2, 0, 2, 4, 6. And x is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now I want to combine using the logical operators. I want to use the AND operator. So I want to MATLAB to evaluate if z is greater than x and z is greater than y. Okay, so basically what I want MATLAB to do is determine if z is greater than both x and y for every element. So I get the answer as a logical array of ones here. So it means that for each element, okay, this is element of x, this is element of y, and this is element of z. For each element, z is always greater than x and y. Okay, z is 8, greater, 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 and greater. Okay, so that's why I have the results true for each element. So when each element has a true comparison results, so MATLAB will evaluate that the whole comparison is also true. Let's try another one. Let's try to use the operator OR. So with OR, I want MATLAB to evaluate is x is greater than y or x is greater than z. And MATLAB will give out this answer. Okay, so it says that only the first 3 elements is true, but the last 2 elements is false. So for the whole comparison, it is not true, so it is false. So let's look at why that it is true or false. So the first one, so with an OR, okay, with OR, the true results, you will get true if either one of the comparison is true. Okay, first we compare between x and y. Is x is greater than y? Yes, true. But the second comparison is x is greater than z? False. Okay, although the second comparison is false, but with this OR operator, we only have to we only have even if we only have one true comparison, the whole results comparison will be true. Okay, and the second element, x is greater than y, yes, true. X is greater than z, false, but the result is true. And the third element, x is greater than y, true. X is greater than z, false, but the result is true. Let's look at the fourth element. X is greater than y, false. The second comparison, x is greater than z, false. So if both the comparison here false and the second one is also false, so the whole comparison is also false. Okay, it is the same for the last elements. Okay, so although it has the 3 true comparison results for this comparison, but MATLAB will evaluate the whole comparison as false. Okay, order of precedence. So the arithmetic, relational, and logical operators can all be combined in mathematical expressions. When an expression has such a combination, the results depends on the order in which the operations are carried out. So you can see here, this is the order of precedence that is used by MATLAB. Okay, you can see the highest precedence is the parentheses, followed by explanation, logical NOT, multiplication, addition, subtraction, relational operators, logical and finally logical OR. So if there is 2 or more operations that have the same precedence, the expression will be executed in order from left to right. Right?